Welcome back to Route Double. We last left off, Yeah, we died. We have Salyu living with us now. And yeah, in our last transition back to the present day, we died trying to get the door open because we didn't trust... Because of a lack of trust in Salyu and the situation, Salyu being brought in to protect us by our mother from some unknown threat that she refuses to tell her son about. And then I'm imagining the ending of before, where we saw Miyoko Tenkawa hearing about her son's death in Labo, and just again doesn't tell her son about the threat and not his life. Surprised Pikachu face. He died. Oh, good morning. Good morning, Salyu. Yuri greeted him with a warm smile. Salyu, on the other hand, just looked at him silently. Yesterday still seemed hard to believe. Beautiful French-Japanese prodigy abruptly moved into his house. She's 13. Apparently it was no dream.
Ohayo, Yuri. Salyu.
Not used to greetings, Salyu awkwardly attempted to reply.
Ohayo.
The moment Salyu said that, Mashiro popped out of the kitchen.
Ah, ohayo, Natsuhiko. ちょうどご飯できたとこだよ。用意手伝って。
Mashiro seemed to be the same as always. Natsuhiko went through the motions of helping to prepare for breakfast, and soon enough a small family-sized portion of French toast, salad, and some coffee was laid out on the table.
今日はサリュのお国に合わせてみたよ。
Oh?
サラダはフレンチドレッシングで、コーヒー豆はフレンチロースト。
How French is French dressing, actually? That feels like one of those things that we've just Americanized.
フレンチ尽くしだね。今日も美味しそう。
I'm legitimately curious if French dressing is actually French, or if it's as American as the fortune cookie.
それじゃ皆さん、手を合わせて。いただきます。
Oh, Salyu too. And thus they began to eat, leaving Natsuhiko's bewilderment unresolved. Mashiro and Yuri were the same as always. The addition of Salyu made this no ordinary morning. Is this in fact our new ordinary? That was what bewildered Natsuhiko. Then after breakfast was over, Natsuhiko, Mashiro, and Salyu had to go to school, so they turned the lights on their way out. The three of them departed, leaving Yuri at home. The Great Illusion. When Mashiro and Natsuhiko entered the classroom with Salyu, it stirred a commotion among their classmates.
あれ？なんで天川が鳥羽だけじゃなく三宮さんと一緒に？ああ、そこでたまたま一緒になってさ。
Natsuhiko's grandiose answer prompted a chuckle and whisper from Mashiro.
スムーズな嘘でしたな、夏彦くん。
お前はのんきだな。余計なこと言うんじゃないぞ。
余計なこと。
Oh. Well, give it one more. Why not?
一緒に暮らしてるってことだよ。
まあ、秘密を共有していた方がより仲良くなれるだろうしね。
Our little secret, huh? Indeed, living together meant that it would be the best that they get along at least a little bit. However, Natsuhiko didn't think sharing a little secret was the best way to achieve that goal.
まあ、みんなの誤解を避けるためにも、今のところは3人だけの秘密にしとこう。
オッケー、いいねいいね。なんか盛り上がるね。
Salyu nodded at Mashiro's words. Natsuhiko sighed a little as he made it to his desk. First lesson of that day was parapsychology.
さて、今日は昨日の課外授業のおさらいです。昨日は普段の授業であまり触れなかったことも勉強できたわね。
You sure did.
それが何かわかるかしら。天川夏彦くん。
devilish smile formed on Anna's face when she saw Natsuhiko's surprise to hear his name called out so suddenly. It appeared to be payback for him spacing out yesterday. You were so nice yesterday. You're so mean, Professor.
そうですね。職員の人が話してくれた BC と脳の関係についてですか？
その通り。BC の研究は脳生理学の研究と密接に関わっているのよ。
Anna tapped on her own head as she spoke. Free real
つ
estate.
まるところ BC ってのは脳と脳の直接的コミュニケーションなの。第三者の脳細胞に働きかけて刺激を起こし神経伝達物質を分泌させるわけね。
Yeah, hack my brain. Give me that good brain juice, baby. Hell yeah. Other students began to raise their voices at those words.
そういう原理だったんすか？
あら、不勉強ね。ま、原理を知らなくても BC は使えるけど、知っておいて損はないわよ。ものすごく単純化して説明すると、例えばテレパシーは脳の聴覚を司る場所に実際に音を聞いた時と同じ反応を与えるのね。逆に他人の脳から漏れ出す思考をキャッチし言語として聞き取るのがエンパシーなの。
Empathy is a bit more complicated.
つまりどちらも一種の錯覚なんですよね。
I feel like that explanation for telepathy makes sense. Empathy, I feel like in doing that you also have to think about how do you produce thoughts?
音のように聞こえているけど、
I guess that.
実際は情報が直接脳に伝わってるっていう。そうね。でも脳が認識するということはそもそも錯覚的なのかもしれないわよ。どういうことですか？例えば、そう、皆さんは盲点というのをご存知かしら？
盲点？言葉は知ってますけど。
実は人間の網膜には視神経が存在しない場所があるのよ。そこは本当は何も見ていないの。
視界の中に空白があるってことですか？
Natsuhiko couldn't quite follow what Anna was saying.
言葉だけじゃ分かりにくいわよね。それじゃまずそのことを実感できる図を送るわ。
Anna fiddled with the computer to send image data to the students' tablet PCs. It's an image with just 2 black dots.
はい。それじゃあ右目を閉じながら左目で右の黒点を見てみて。
Okay. You heard her. Do it. Close your right eye. Use your left eye to look at the right dot. Natsuhiko looked at the dot as instructed.
で、そのままゆっくり画像に顔を近づけていって。
Move your face closer to the screen, everybody. Do it.
そして15センチくらいまで近づけると。
あ、
Natsuhiko couldn't help but exclaim. The dot that he could have sworn was there had disappeared. Other students appeared to have had the same reaction, and the classroom broke into a commotion.
皆さん、わかりました？その黒い丸は左目の盲点に入っちゃってるわけなの。盲点とは視界の中に存在するものを見ることができない場所。いわばその盲点の中にあるものを人間は見ることができないのです。
なるほど。
でもなんか変。なんで視界の中に空白があるのに普段は意識しないんですか？
そう思うでしょ？それは脳が勝手にその空白を保管しているからです。
空白を保管？
それでは次はそのことを実感できる画像を送るわね。
With that, Anna sent the students another image. It was a figure with a black line break on one side and a dot on the other.
これもさっきと同じように右目を閉じて左目で黒点を見てごらんなさい。
Alright, do it. Look at the dot with your left eye. Instructed Natsuhiko closed his right eye and brought his face close to the image. When he did... Natsuhiko was surprised once again. Now the broken line appeared to be smooth and continuous.
ねえ、面白いでしょ。これがね、空白を補完するっていう言葉の意味なの。盲点のせいで線が途切れた部分は見えなくなっちゃったわけだけど、脳はその空白を自動的に埋めようとする機能があるの。しかもこれ常に起こってるのよ。普通にその辺の風景とかを見るときもね。
Natsuhiko finally realized. The reason the line looked continuous was because that's how my brain filled in the gap, huh? In other words, the brain apparently assumed that the line won't suddenly just break there. It's obviously continuous. Yeah, that the gap is in your blind spot. So the brain just says this is a whole line and fills in the gap. In the same way the brain is continuous, so you're automatically filling in the dead spots. And that's why we're never consciously aware of our dead spots in everyday life.
皆さんお分かり？これがさっき私が言った認識するということはそもそも錯覚的であるって言葉の意味よ。人間は目の前に存在するものを実はそのまま見ているわけではなくて、必ず一度脳というフィルターを通してから認識しているというわけ。見えるものが全てではないし、見えるもの全てが本物とは限らないのよ。
So maybe everything she's saying is a hallucination as well. It might have been a bit of a stretch to say that. Natsuhiko chuckled to himself.
これで人間が世界を認識するときは必ず脳を通して行っているということを分かってもらえたかしら。そして BC とは知っての通り脳に直接働きかけるコミュニケーションよね。ということは理論上働きかけられるのは聴覚だけじゃない。使えるのはテレパシーとエンパシーだけじゃないの。
Possibly other ways to directly interact with the brain.
視覚に働きかけるテレパシーもあれば、味覚を読み取るエンパシーもあり得るかもしれない。自分の認識している世界を丸ごと他人に伝えることだってできるかもしれない。 BC の可能性は無限なのよ。新たな道を切り開くつもりで日々練習を積んでいってね。
Convey the entire world one perceives to someone else. That stands out to me because that's what I thought was happening initially in After.
いつかはテレパシーでもないエンパシーでもない第三の能力が現れるかもしれないのよ。
Well, now you've teased it, and springboarded off that note to begin the actual lesson. The connection between the brain and BC, parts of the brain that perceive BC, the theoretical mechanisms. She reached a good stopping point right as the bell rang. Class ended, and as they left into the hall, they heard the usual bizarre commotion. Oh no, not this again.
お返事してくれませんか？すみません。困らせるつもりじゃなかったんです。
だから何度も言ってるでしょ。テレパシー送られても困るだけだって。直接会いに来たらお話くらい聞いてあげるわよ。
それは俺にはハードルが高い。恥ずかしい。
全校生徒に告白聞かせといて、今さら何を恥ずかしがることがあるのよ。ほんと変な人ね、あんた。
さて始めるぞシン。思考性テレパシーの秘密特訓だ。よしやってみろベニタキ。行くぞ。エナ先生のバストは推定91センチ。どうだ聞こえたがいかん。よく考えたら2人で特訓しても思考性があるかどうかは判断できん。
It's not.
何？
Mashita started to talk, so we have actively ignoring the noise.
ねえ夏彦、面白い授業だったね。
ああ、超心理学としては珍しくな。
でも変な感じだよね。私の見ている世界と夏彦の見ている世界が実は全然違うかもしれないってことじゃない？
うん？そうなるのか？
幻覚とか幻聴とかは他の人と認識が違う状態の顕著な例だよね。ありもしないものが見えたり聞こえない音が聞こえるんだもん。
そうか、確かに。
Visual and auditory hallucinations are a category of brain activity. So if those activities vary from person to person, then so too does perception. You want to talk about perceiving the world differently, play Sayano Uta. Every 8 billion people in the world have 8 billion brains, each perceiving 8 billion different worlds. Each of them perceives their own world as the world, but that world of theirs can perhaps at times become distorted. That's kind of a scary thought. For some reason, Natsuhiko felt a chill.
テレパシーってのはある意味意図的に起こしている幻聴ってわけか。
まあ聞こえ方が独特だからテレパシーだってわかるけどね。
そうじゃなかったらややこしいな。どれが本当の声だか、テレパシーだか、幻聴だか、さっぱりわからなくなる。
そうなったら何を基準にこれが本当の声だって調べるのかな？
That's a good question. Marshall casually remarked and suddenly got a response from behind.
調べようがない。
Hi, Salyu. They turned around in shock, only to find that Salyu had been standing right behind them before they noticed her.
サリュでもわからない？
わかるわけもない。もともと幻聴と真実の声を区別することだって難しいのだから。
え？そうなの？
Did you not just say the same thing?
幻覚も幻聴も脳が真実と信じてしまうことがある。そうなったらどうなると思う？
Salyu switched her glance from Marshall to Natsuhiko. What happens if you think that hallucinations are real?
どうなるんだろう。全くわからないな。それでも幻は幻なんじゃないのか？変なものが見えたり聞こえたりとかして怖がったり。
違う。
The air seemed to creak the moment Salyu cut in.
脳がそう信じた時から幻は見ている本人にとってはれっきとした真実になる。その幻はその人にとって存在するものだから怖がりも疑いもしない。
幻なのに。
幻なのに。
A flustered Marshall cut in after Salyu's firm assertion.
ちょっとサリュ、なんで急にそんな話を？
真白はこんな話をしたかったんじゃないの？
Salyu responded vaguely to Marshall and continued.
こんな事例がある。1857年、フランスのウィーサンブールの村で電話機を作ろうとした発明家がいた。技術的には当時それは不可能とも言えた。幾多の苦難の果て、12年の歳月をかけそれは完成した。
その発明家にとっては
華々しい完成式に村中の人が集まった。隣人の家に電話機が置かれ、隣人は受話器を通して発明家に語りかけた。自宅で受話器を耳に当てた発明家はこんな声を聞いた。おめでとう、あなたは大発明家だ。電話機は全く通話不能だった。
That moment a chill ran down Natsuhiko's spine.
ゾッとする話だな。
要するに受話器を通じて聞こえた声は一種の幻聴だったのだと思う。そしてその発明家は結局死ぬまで電話機の完成を信じて疑わなかった。 1876年にグラハム・ベルが電話機の特許を取った時は発明を盗まれたとして訴訟を起こしている。
そんな、そこまで強固に信じられるものなのか。
Natsuhiko was reminded of what Yuri had told him about memories last night. It felt like something was just a little different. But Salyu answered with a nod.
脳はしばしば自分の都合のいいように認識の辻褄を合わせる。場合によっては現実すらもねじ曲げかねない。その発明家にとっては幻聴が真実であり、音声は虚構。周囲の人が何を言っても己にとっての真実を疑うことはなく。
Mashiro raised her voice before Salyu could finish. Natsuhiko gasped. Mashiro's voice was trembling.
サリュー、もうやめて。その話なんか怖いよ。
怖がらせるつもりじゃなかった。
ああ、ごめんね、こっちこそ。気にしないで。
Yeah, it kind of brought the mood down. It's interesting, but definitely dragged the mood down.
なんだよ、マシロ。お前、怖い話とか苦手だっけ？
そうだね。今みたいな話は苦手かな。
Mashiro spoke with a wry smile as she held up a finger to her temple.
サリュー、なかなかいいホラー話だったけどさ、あまり怖がらせるとお姉さん泣いちゃうよ。またこういう話したら天川博士に言いつけるからね。
Oh, that's a little harsh. Salyu's face stiffened at those words.
承知した。気をつける。
Leave it as is.
お願いだよ。本当にもう。
The pitiful look on her face, Mashiro glanced at Natsuhiko.
なんだそんな怖がって。お前も案外女の子らしいところあるな。
うるさいな。幽霊とかは OK なんだけど、サイコホラーみたいなのが苦手なんだよ。
そりゃいいこと知った。じゃあこんな話は知ってるか？
何？
これは第二次世界大戦後のアメリカで人間の狂気の境界を知るため行われた実験なんだけど。
Oh no.
なんでか知らないけどやめて。嫌な予感がする。
まず被験体に電極をつないである部屋に閉じ込めて、
それ以上聞きたくない。
そして別の部屋に押せば電流が流れるボタンを。
わーわーわー、聞こえません。
Natsuhiko smirked to see Mashiro plucking her ears. Never knew she had such a weak spot. Guess there are some things you don't know about people even after you've been with them for so long. Salyu looked on in wonder at Natsuhiko and Mashiro's banter. Throw away your books, rally in the streets. Yeah. There were no particularly memorable lessons after that. Lunch break ended and the afternoon classes swiftly came to a close. After school, Natsuhiko stretched and called out to the seat next to him.
さて帰るか、マシロ。
He stopped before he could finish. Salyu was staring directly at him.
ああ、そうだよな。サリも一緒に帰ろうか。
Natsuhiko felt an odd sense of tension and distance with her. There's something about her ominous story that bugged him, too. Kinda hard to talk to her. What do I do?
なーに二人ともまだギクシャクしてんの？普通に話しなよ、普通に。
いや、ていうかマシロこそなんでそんなに平然としてるんだよ。さっきあんなにサリュの話に怯えてたじゃないか。
何それ、まだそんなこと言ってんの？いろいろ気にしすぎなんだよ、夏彦は。
そんなこと言ったってな。
It was not as if he could lower his guard with a flip of a switch. Far from it. It was only stronger today compared to yesterday.
だいたい普通に話せって言ったって共通の話題もないし。
やれやれ、意固地かつ非コミュなんだから。さーて、どうしたもんかね。
Mashiro fell silent to ponder for a second, then clapped her hands together.
よーし、今日は3人で買い物に行こう。
一昨日買い物に行ったばかりじゃないか。
あれは買い出し、今日は買い物。サリも引っ越してきたばかりでいろいろ物入りでしょ。
いや、別に私は。
まあまあまあまあ、遠慮しないで。だいたいまっすぐ帰るのもつまらないじゃん。今日もいい天気だし、買い物日和だよ。行こうじゃないの、3人でさ。
夏彦が行くなら行く。
Natsuhiko jumped at the abrupt answer. Was Salyu perhaps trying to lower her guard around him too? No, she's just assigned to protect you, so if you don't go, then she's not going to go shopping without you. If that were the case, it'd mean Natsuhiko was the only one being obstinate. Quite the awkward situation.
なら仕方ないな。
よーし、決まりね。それじゃあ、Here we go!
Salyu nodded expressionlessly. Natsuhiko nodded with a sigh. And so Mashiro took them to Center Street. Still, how'd things turn out like this? As Natsuhiko pondered this turn of events, Mashiro was to his right, enjoying herself. Salyu was to his left, sulking.
サリュー、何か欲しいものある？
特にない。
What did we come here for? Natsuhiko had that thought, but said nothing. He just followed silently wherever Mashiro took him.
生活に必要なものって揃ってるの？
タオルや歯ブラシ、それと下着などはすでに博士が買ってくれた。それだけあれば十分。
質素だね。
お嬢様風なのにな。
Natsuhiko was surprised to learn about that side of Salyu, but that's when he noticed something.
ちょっと待て。服は？昨日家でも制服着てたな。ひょっとして制服以外持ってないのか？
それが何か？
やっぱり母さんのことだから、サリュの服装のことには頭が回らなかったんだな。
Dr. Tenkawa was completely unconcerned about clothing. After all, she spent her days in a lab coat year-round, which made her empathetic about other people's clothing as well.
ありゃりゃ、博士らしいっちゃらしいね。だったらサリュー、今日は服を買いに行こうか。
制服があるからいい。
ダメだよ、女の子なんだもん。第一、制服で生活してるとシワになっちゃうしね。
でも実は私はお金をあまり持ち歩いてはいない。
安心しなさいって。お金は出すよ、夏彦が。
I am?
僕が？
Since when? Natsuhiko was terrified to be suddenly volunteered. That's when Mashiro whispered into his ear.
いいじゃん、夏彦。くらいくらい。どうせ博士が持ってくれるんでしょ。
Oh, put it on Mom's tab.
まあ、
In that case, hell yeah. The professor left Natsuhiko in charge of a credit card for times like these. That's what they used to buy groceries, but Natsuhiko still showed day-to-day moderation.
っていうか、マシロ、普段はお前の方が節約家なのに珍しいこともあるな。
だって木の実木のままじゃサリュがかわいそうすぎるでしょ。嫌だったら私が自腹切ってでも払うよ。私はどっちでもいいけど、どうする？
Now that Mashiro had gone this far, it was very difficult for Natsuhiko to decline.
わかったよ。払おうじゃないか。
よーし、決まりね。博士に事情説明よろしく。
With that, Mashiro turned back to Salyu.
サリュー、スポンサーのお許しが出たよ。何でも好きな服買ってあげよう。
わかった。夏彦と真白がそう言うなら 買ってもらうことにする。
Her phrasing was odd, but for the time being, it looked like they had reached an agreement for the time being. Okay. That was a weak reaction. Perhaps clothing was of no importance to Salyu.
よーし、それならそこの服屋で服を買おう。
Marshall pointed to a nearby store.
そこの店、安くていい感じの服が揃ってるんだよね。
One looked inside, and sure enough, they had racks full of tasteful clothing. Oops,
な
wrong
るほ
button.
ど。それじゃあ僕は外で待ってるから2人で。
You're going with us, Natsuhiko.
何言ってんの？夏彦も一緒に選ぶんだよ。男の子の意見も聞きたいしね。
Eh,
サリュー。
well, I think I'm already high enough on there, so... I have an instinctive guttural reaction when a yellow senses choice pops up, but... always have to remind myself that yellow choices also trigger character events.
任せる。
だってさ、ほら行くよ、夏彦も。
ちょっとおい。
Which means we can probably sit this out. Marshall nearly dragged Natsuhiko and Salyu into the clothing store. 30 minutes after entering the store.
ねえねえ、こっちはどうかな。
わからない。
これは
Oh my gosh. Marshall treated Salyu almost like a dress-up doll. I'll admit, that is a cute look. I'll give you that. Marshall was excited. Salyu was confused. From a short distance away, Natsuhiko watched.
夏彦、見てこれ。サリューってば超可愛いでしょ。
まあそこそこな。
何それ、えそうに。
We're not letting that stand.
夏彦、
Well, okay. She certainly was cute, which went without saying. Natsuhiko couldn't help but be captivated by Salyu's change in appearance. I don't know what she's thinking, and to be honest, she's a little eerie. Well, she does have a beautiful face. She's also 13. Let's not forget. Dressed in those tasteful clothes, she was truly like a doll. But Salyu herself muttered in extreme discomfort.
真白。これで10着目だけど、結局どれにすればいいの？
どうしようかな。全部買いたいんだけ
ほら真白、そんなわけにいくか。
ど。だよね。サリュー的にはどれが一番良かった？
測りかねる。
それじゃあ夏彦的には？
そうだな。
Natsuhiko was unfamiliar with fashion, but he still tried to think before answering.
その服が一番いいんじゃないか。
やっぱそう？
いいセンスだよ、真白。
It was a clothing coordination with a youthful image that really seemed to match Salyu's short build. Let's see.
そうだな。
No, that still gives us a... okay. The clothes really suited Salyu's age and matched her aura to a T.
じゃあこの服にしよう。
Mashiro seemed extremely happy, but Salyu sighed as she spoke.
疲れた。
でもその割には嬉しそうだね。
そんなことはない。
Ah.
そうかな。顔赤いよ。
Salyu said nothing, but... Ah. That's when Natsuhiko saw something most curious. A smile upon Salyu's... With a smile on her face and cute clothes wrapped around her body, she looked like the epitome of a pure, innocent girl. That sounded weird. A smile on her supple lips. What's with that? Never expected that reaction. It is a cute smile, though. In any case, it appeared that Mashido's efforts were worth it after all. Lost in thought, Natsuhiko found a faint smile forming on his own lips. After taking care of the bill, he left the store with the two girls. As they walked through town, Mashiro turned to Salyu and mused.
ほらほらサリュー、
Oh,
道行く人がみんな振り返ってるよ。
Salyu shyly looked away. Salyu had borrowed the dressing room to change into her new clothes right away. Oh, not just her, but Mashiro too. Oh, okay, that's cute.
ってなんでお前まで着替えてるんだよ。ていうか、いつの間に買ったんだ？
いいじゃん別に。サリューの服選んでたら私もおしゃれ欲が刺激されてさ。もちろんこっちのは私の自腹だよ。どうかなどうかな。
真っ白も可愛いと思う。
Oh,
ありゃ、お上手だね。お姉さんは嬉しいよ。
Mashiro patting her on her head, Salyu looked just as cute as a typical girl her age. Looks like Mashiro's completely lowered her guard around Salyu, huh? Natsuhiko still had some misgivings. He still recalled what happened the day before yesterday in the back of his head. He remembered seeing Salyu, the only one in the sea of onlookers who calmly looked at him instead of the accident. Bizarre no matter how I think about it. Isn't it strange for her to look straight at me and me alone right after a big accident like that? He seemed like an outsider coming to disrupt his peaceful days. Perhaps there'd be a reason for that too if he looked back far enough. Besides, even if she did come to protect him, there shouldn't have been a reason to keep an eye on him from that far away. I want a logical explanation. Unless he had that explanation, he wouldn't be able to open his heart to Salyu. And so he made up his mind and asked her.
なあサリュー、ちょっといいか？
何？
おとといここで事故があったな。そして君もこの現場にいたな。
それが何か？
何？サリューもあの事故現場にいたの？それじゃあ私の慌てぶりも見られて。
ちょっと待ってくれマシロ。今大事な話をしてるんだ。
Mashiro gulped and fell silent at Natsuhiko's subdued voice.
ごめん。続けて。
ありがとう。それでサリュー、あの時君は事故に目もくれず僕の方を見てたよな。野じ馬はみんな事故現場の方ばかり見てたのに、なんで君だけ僕を見てたんだ？ずっとそれが気になっていたんだ。理由を教えてくれないか
Salyu silently pondered, then she spoke with a sigh.
事故現場に居合わせたのはただの偶然。
偶然だって？
そう。あの日、私は今後住むことになるこの町を散策していた。そうしたらあの事故が起きた。野じ馬するのも品がないので通り過ぎようとしたけど、その時凄まじい声が聞こえ、驚いて立ち止まった。
The more he thought about it, the more that made sense. Even Natsuhiko himself was surprised at how he had used telepathy.
じゃあひょっとして声っていうかテレパシーの出所を探してたとか？
そう。辺りを見回していたらたまたま夏彦と目が合った。以前博士から聞いていた息子の風貌に似ていたからまさかとは思ったのだけど、わざわざ確かめるのも変なので諦めて立ち去った。理由はそれが全て。
Salyu quickly explained herself in one breath.
なんだ、サリューに対する態度が妙だと思ってたらそんなこと気にしてたの夏彦？
いや、なんていうか気になってさ。
Now that the mystery had been solved, the actual answer seemed to be quite trivial.
でもな、誰だって気にかかると思うんだ。事故現場で当事者から妙なことを言われて、しかもなんかぬいぐるみを持った女の子に睨まれたら。
Natsuhiko glanced at Salyu's stuffed animal. Just then, said stuffed animal made a strange sound.
泣いた。
また。
Natsuhiko remembered it had done so before. Last night when he talked to Salyu in front of the house, that stuffed animal did indeed squeak. I think it's been bugging me too.
なあ、そのぬいぐるみって何なんだ？なんか時々泣いたりするけど。
これはぬいぐるみじゃない。アームズという機械。
Oh,
アームズ？
okay.
エアーリーディングマスコットシステム。
つまり空気を読むシステム？
はあ？どういうことだ？
Stuffed animal squeaked again in Natsuhiko's confusion.
今このアームズは夏彦を見て戸惑うような鳴き声を立てたでしょ。
あ、あ
これは夏彦の表情や声を分析して夏彦が戸惑っているという判断を下した。それを私に伝えるためキューッと泣いた。つまり他人の感情を読んで反応を返す自動返答装置。
なるほど。要は高機能なペットロボットってわけか。
It's a mood ferret. Pet robots in general had gotten quite popular recently. Natsuhiko had heard that their functionalities had been advancing over the years, so he assumed that this was just one of those advancements.
でも珍しいねそれ。他人の感情を読むなんて機能聞いたことないよ。
そんなことできるものなのか？
人の感情や印象、その相対としての場の空気というものは情報科学の分野では20世紀から研究されていた。それを数値化できるようになったのはごく最近だけど。
じゃあそれ先端技術の推移ってわけか。
高そうだね。それならずっと持ち歩くのもうなずけるよ。
別に高価だからじゃない。必要だから持っている。
必要だから？
実は私は他者の表情や感情の変化を察するのがとても苦手。
Oh.
これがあってようやく人とまともにコミュニケートできる。
そうなのか？
フランスに住んでたからかな。日本人の表情は分かりにくいとか？
Well, you could just be bad at it in general.
そう、そんなところ。だから新しい生活に馴染めるか不安だった。だけどアームズがあればなんとかやっていけそう。
But still, that's kind of a cool thing.
そうだったのか。
Natsuhiko felt as if he had seen a side of Salyu he had never seen before. She felt uneasy. What? I guess she wasn't putting on airs after all. What is this choice? Natsuhiko felt like he finally understood a lot of things. Like why she had seemed so pouty at school. Why the arms device had squeaked when they talked last night, and why Sally reacted the way she did. Those were all signs of anxiety. That's why she acted this way. Natsuhiko suddenly found himself seeing Salyu in a different light. At the same time, he felt slightly embarrassed. Now that he thought about it, not once since Salyu arrived did Natsuhiko treat her favorably. He just rejected her under the pretense that she was a girl he didn't really understand, which was by no means a good attitude to take. What am I, a kid? After chiding himself and pondering for a moment, he timidly called out to Salyu.
あのさ、サリ
何？
ュ。悪かったな。今まで態度悪く接しててさ。
ああ、そのこと。大丈夫。私は全く気にしていないし、夏彦が気にすることでもない。
いやでも、やっぱり悪かったよ。ごめんな。
Still an awkward exchange as ever, but it wasn't unpleasant at all. Something that had been lurking in the depths of Natsuhiko's heart had silently thawed away. And as if she had sensed that change in Natsuhiko, Mashiro smiled.
いい感じだね。誤解も解けて、こいつは新たな友情の始まりだね。
お前、そういうことを言うなよ。 台無しだよ。
いや、褒めてるんだよ夏彦。ちゃんと素直に謝ってさ。そういうのって口に出さなきゃわからないからね。
確かに思ったことは言ってくれると助かる。アームズだけじゃカバーしきれない部分もあるから。
わかった。前向きに善処するよ。
He ended up phrasing that awkwardly due to his embarrassment. Marshall smiled devilishly and then addressed Salyu.
ところでサリュー、その子名前はなんて言うの？
だからアームズ。
いやいや、そうじゃなくって個体名っていうの？ほら、ペットとかって名前つけるじゃん？ポチとかシロとかそういうの。
考えたこともなかった。
それじゃあ何かつけてあげたら？名前あった方が愛がこもるよ。
確かにあった方がいいかもしれない。でも名前が思いつかない。だから真っ白につけてもらうことにする。
私？
You are good at nicknames.
いいの？そんな大事なものなのに。
私のあだ名をつけた時はあっさり決めていたはず。
確かに。それに真白、そういうの得意だろ。
そうだね。わかった。つけてみるよ。そうだ。アリスってのはどうかな？
アリス？
不思議の国の？
そっちじゃなくてね、サリュが昨日読んでた SF 小説の作者名から取ってみたんだよ。
昨日？ああ、学校で読んでたやつか。
Now that you mentioned it, Marshall did appear to have known about the book Sally was reading yesterday.
でも真白は間違ってる。あの本の作者はジェームズ。
違うのだよ。あれはペンネームでね。作者の本名はアリスっていうのさ。
知らなかった。真白は博識。
About science fiction and anime.
で、どうかな？それ SF っぽいアイテムだし、響きも可愛いでしょ？
採用する。
As Sally spoke, she gently stroked her arms device, now known as Alice, on the head. I don't know if I'm actually gonna go back to that red choice and see. I might at some point, but not in this video. I definitely understand why it's a red choice out of the blue, because it's the final decision of, do we accept Sally or do we keep our walls up? I do wonder if that would go straight to the same bed ending we had before, or...
僕もいいと思うよ。響きも可愛いし、さすがだな、真白。
こんなネーミングくらいで褒めないでよ。照れるじゃん。
Before Natsuhiko had noticed, the somewhat serious mood had been completely cleared away.
よかったじゃないか、気に入ってもらえて。
いや、正直自信なかったんだけどね。
Okay, yeah, this is the extra.
真白の家ってペット飼ってたっけ？
This is the extra dialogue we're seeing.
飼ってたじゃない昔。私たちで。
ああ、ひょっとしてシリウスのことか？
That.
そうそう。
What a name.
難しいよね。
That's a handy name. With that, Natsuhiko recalled a distant memory. His name was Sirius. The story from back when Natsuhiko and Marshall still didn't get along. One day Natsuhiko went to the park with snacks in hand. I hope Marshall's not there. If she is, I'm sure we'll just get into a fight again. He had a bag of biscuits for his snack that day. Marshall were there, he thought he'd go show it off. When he got to the park, Natsuhiko couldn't believe what he saw. There was Marshall and a ferocious stray dog. The dog growled and stared at Marshall. Sounds like a little.
誰か助ける
Sounds like a chihuahua or something. Small. Palm. Mashlo tearfully pleaded. Still threatening to a small child, I can understand, but still. There was nobody else around. Noticing that nobody else could save her, Natsuhiko rushed down
やめろ
and forced his way between Mashlo and the stray dog.
おい犬ころ真白をいじめるな
Moo!
夏彦
The words spilling out of Natsuhiko's mouth surprised the dog, Mashlo, and even Natsuhiko himself.
なんで夏彦が
I don't know. Thinking on his feet, he declared,
こいつは僕のそうライバルなんだだからな僕以外のやつが真白をやっつけるのは許さないぞ
That was Natsuhiko paraphrasing the lines of one of the superhero TV shows he was obsessed with at the time. Despite the plagiarism, the assertiveness of the line was enough to overpower the stray dog. As Natsuhiko stared the dog down, Mashlo whispered behind him,
夏彦まさか助けに来てくれたの
お前のためじゃないヒーローとして当然のことだ
かっこつけるのはいいけどどうするつもりなの
こんなこともあろうかと
I got biscuits. Natsuhiko slowly took a biscuit out of the bag in his pocket and tossed it to the dog. The dog whined and proceeded to devour the biscuit. He ate so heartily that he paid no attention to the kids.
よしチャンスだ今のうちにやっつけよう
待って夏彦
The dog finished the biscuit in the blink of an eye, then let out a friendly whine. He's just hungry.
あれ急におとなしくなった
もしかしてお腹減ってただけなんじゃ
なんだ拍子抜け
Natsuhiko's shoulders sank as the dog approached him.
なんだよビスケットもっと欲しいのかしょうがないな僕の分もあげるから食べろよ
Natsuhiko ripped up the biscuit bag and poured it onto the ground. This is better this way, so we don't have to fight. A hero's kindness, I guess. Without revealing how relieved he felt, Natsuhiko spoke to Mashiro.
ほらもう大丈夫だぞマシロ
When he turned to look at Mashiro,
ん
怖くないよ
suddenly started crying.
うわ泣くなよ
No matter how much Natsuhiko tried to calm her down, Mashiro kept crying. The dog just kept eating the biscuits beside them. Then, about 5 minutes later, Mashiro finally stopped crying.
なあもう大丈夫か
Mashiro looked bashfully at Natsuhiko as she said this.
あのさ
ん
Oh,
あり
Mashiro mumbled her words.
なんだよなんか言いたいなら早く言えって
Right as Natsuhiko lost his patience, Stray Dog leapt at Natsuhiko. And then the dog started licking his face.
いやなんだ何の企みだ
ビスケットあげたから懐いちゃったんじゃない
なるほどってそれより顔を舐めるのやめろかゆい
Oh, Nabby. Natsuhiko firmly spoke and the dog obeyed. Perhaps he was a smarter dog than he appeared.
それにしても お前は見どころがあるな。仲間にしてやろうか。素直なやつ。
Natsuhiko happily patted the dog on the head. Mashiro spoke gently.
かわいいね。
かっこいいって言えよ。かわいいのはダメだ。弱そうだから。
まあどっちでもいいけどさ、そんなことよりこの子野良犬なんだよね。
まあそうだろうな。首はしてないし。
じゃあ私たちで飼わない？
ダメだよ。うち犬飼えないもん。お母さんが動物アレルギーなんだ。
そっか、うちもお父さんが動物嫌いだからな。
Mashiro thought for a while before clapping her hands together.
それじゃあこの公園で飼うのは？餌は私たちで用意してさ。
あ、それならできるな。そうしよ
Natsuhiko approved of Mashiro's plan. It seemed like a pretty good idea.
う。名前はどうしようか。
そうだ、シリウスっていうのはどう？
シリウス？
犬の星座の名前だよ、確か。
Ah,
それとこの町のレスキュー隊の名前でもあるんだよ。
oh, so it was intentional.
レスキュー隊か。かっこいいなそれ。よし、それじゃ今日からお前はシリウスだ。
The dog heartily replied as if he liked the name too.
よかったね、シリウス。
Mashiro smiled at the happy Sirius. As he saw her smile, Natsuhiko remembered the question that had been bugging him.
ところでマシロ、さっきなんか言おうとしなかったか？
No, you dummy.
あ、いや、なんでもないよ。
なんだよ、変なやつ。
変なやつって何よ、夏彦のバカ。
Oh,
変
Jen!
だ。
Turned away from each other in a huff. Starting that day, Natsuhiko and Mashiro's mutual feuding gradually came to an end.
そうか、そんなこともあったな。
Now that he thought about it, he had gotten along with Mashiro ever since that time. They didn't get along at first, but it was an animal that brought them back together back then as well. It's almost like the situation now. Natsuhiko looked at Alice. This time Alice let out a gentle squeak.
うん、またアリスが泣いた。
初めて聞く声。夏彦は今何を考えているの？
懐かしいと思っていたんだよ。
Nostalgia skew. Skew. Natsuhiko answered Sally with a smile.
さて、まだ時間があるな。どうする？
私はもう買い物は十分。
Natsuhiko thought they should go home in that case, but Mashiro spoke up as if something had crossed her mind.
あー、待って二人とも。ちょっと食材買いに寄っていい？
え？もう冷蔵庫空だったっ
いやほら、昨日はあり合わせのもので夕食作ったからさ。今日はサリュの歓迎も兼ねてちょっと豪華な夕食にしたいかなって。
Well, sure. Let's do
け？
it.
なるほど。それもいいな。
Now that he thought about it, they didn't have any sort of welcome party. He was unsure if it was really appropriate to throw one now.
それは好きなものを選んでいいの？
Oh, hell yeah.
もちろんだよ。サリュ、何食べたい？
What's your dinner of
ビフテ
choice?
キ。
Beefsteak? Natsuhiko was caught off guard by Sally's vigorous response.
即答か。しかもビーフステーキをビフテキとは、なんとも古風な言い方だな。
夏彦は無知。ビフテキは元はフランス語のル・ビフテック。
Le
焼い
beefsteak.
た肉という意味であり、ビーフステーキの略じゃない。
I want meat.
何？そうだったのか？
とにかくお肉が食べたいのね。
そう、極めて。行こうマシロ、今すぐに。
ああ、ちょっと待って。
Mashiro and Salyu ran off. Their exchange was so peaceful, Natsuhiko couldn't help but smile. I guess this is nice. chased after them as he mused to himself. Natsuhiko felt just the slightest bit of euphoria in this moment. After they finished their shopping, Natsuhiko and the girls rode the bus back home. They then passed through the entryway together. Yuri welcomed them in.
ただいま、ユーリ。
ただいまちゃん。
ただいま。
Even Salyu timidly replied too. Oh. Marshall smiled in relief before speaking up.
よーし、それじゃあご飯作っちゃうね。今日は豪勢なメニューになるよ。
ああ
Beef.
手伝おうか。
いいのいいの。私一人で十分。っていうか今日は私も本気を出すから。キッチンは戦場になる。素人は足手まといだよ。
Uh-oh, food wars.
わかった。任せよ
Fiery passion burns
まあ
bright.
座って待っててよ。
With that, Marshall went into the kitchen. After an hour of patient waiting, Marshall soon lined the table with a smorgasbord of food.
はい、
Wow!
お待たせ。フランスパンと
Holy shit!
エビのココットにニース風サラダ、そしてビシソワーズスープだよ。
Holy shit!
メインディッシュはシャリアピー風ビフテキ。
You're serious? God damn!
おお
That's wild! Natsuhiko couldn't contain a shout of joy. There were 5 delicious dishes laid out, each with their own unique appearances.
素晴らしい。すごいよマシロ。たった小1時間でこれを。
Truly Iron
て
Chef.
いうかすごすぎるだろう。何者なんだお前は。
日頃の修練と高圧電磁調理器の賜物だね。まあ話は後々。まずは食べてみてよ。
Industrial grade pressure cooker. Yeah, it's fair.
はい。夏彦、早く。
あ
Natsuhiko and Yuri came to the dinner table upon Mashito and Salyu's urging.
それじゃあサリューとの出会いを祝っていただきます。
いただきます。
With their joyous shout, they began their meal. Natsuhiko started off with French bread and liver pate. One bite and
うまっ。
couldn't help but let a voice of admiration seep out of his lips. Deep taste of the pate and the sweet scent of the bread entwined in a medley of flavor. Natsuhiko couldn't detect the characteristic odor of the liver at all.
このココットも美味しい。お口の中でほろけるよ。うん。サラダの美味。
お気に召したようですな。でも特に自信があるのはやっぱりこのメインディッシュだよ。
Biftek. Mashito gestured toward the biftek.
これはとあるオペラ歌手が考案したお肉を最も美味しく食べる調理法らしいよ。うまいぞ。ぜひお試しあれ。
どれどれ
On a bed of mushrooms, some greens and vegetables to the side. They each put some of the biftek in their mouths and... I'm savoring it. It is delectable. And their eyes widened. The moment they ate a bite, they felt the savory taste of the mellow meat. By appearances, it was a simple dish consisting only of cooked beef topped with minced onions. However, the meat was unbelievably tender, allowing a knife to cut through it like butter. Yet the tenderness came at no cost to the beef's taste whatsoever. With each bite, its meat juices would flow out, spreading savory flavor throughout the entire mouth.
マシロン、美味しすぎて泣きそうだよ。
God, this is making me hungry. God damn.
こりゃ今までで一番かもしれない。
おほほ、マエストロとお呼び。
Mashito puffed her chest out in pride. Deserved pride. Salyu fell silent and ate up her biftek in the blink of an eye.
あれ、サルちゃんもう食べ終わったの？
見た目によらずすごい食欲だね。
Salyu timidly called out to Mashito.
マシロ、
何？
これおかわりはあるの？
食べるなサリュー。一皿でも結構ボリュームあるのに。
夏彦がおかわりするかもと思ってもう一枚お肉は用意しといたけど。
Yeah, why not? This is a welcome party. Go wild. Go wild, Salyu. Live your best life. Salyu glanced at Natsuhiko with pleading eyes.
マシロ、その肉をサリュにあげてくれ。
It's
いいの？
Salyu's
そうだ
party.
ね。サリュほどの食べっぷりなら譲るのもやぶさかではないよ。
感謝
Go wild.
よし来た。ちょっと待っててね。
Mashiro gleefully headed to the kitchen. Salyu ate her second helping of beef more slowly, making sure to savor each bite. Eventually, she finished eating that helping as well. They sipped some after-dinner coffee. Natsuhiko and the girls sighed contentedly.
ああ、うまかった。
お腹いっぱいだよ。宇宙が見えた。
Shh. Even Salyu spoke incomprehensibly as her eyes drooped.
よかった。いくつか作ったことのない料理があったから不安でもあったんだけど。
That was a spectacle. But alas, for now, God, we picked up a lot of tips again. Eichmann test. Right. In 1960, war criminal Adolf Eichmann was finally captured for the crime of transporting Jewish people to extermination camps during World War II. However, Eichmann's character as established in court was not that of a madman, but a simple factory foreman who loved his wife and worked hard every day. Exactly what had driven Eichmann to commit such cruel acts? American psychologist Stanley Milgram strove to find the answer to that question. What is now known as the Eichmann test, or the Milgram experiment. Okay, yeah, that recognized the Milgram name. Milgram first used the pretext of a memory experiment to call for male test subjects to whom he assigned the role of the teacher or learner. Next, he put the teacher and the learner in separate rooms and had the teacher ask the learners questions through an intercom. The experimenter instructed the teacher to send stronger electric shocks to the learner for each incorrectly answered question. Whenever a teacher became hesitant, the experimenter firmly insisted they continue, and thus, for the most part, the teachers calmly ended up administering electric shocks at even fatal voltages. Since loss of life wasn't a goal in the experiment, though, the test subjects assigned the role of learners were simply planted actors. There were no electric shocks either. Even so, the results of the experiment were terrifying in their own right because they proved that people's consciousnesses are easily numbed and subjugated in the face of authority. Painfully true. QQ? Short for Atmosphere Reading Mascot System. A cutting-edge gadget in the form of a ferret-like stuffed animal that Natsuhiko Tenkawa prepared for Salyu. Oh, he didn't tell us that. By pointing the cameras installed in its eyes at the face of a target, its built-in CPU will quantitatively analyze that target's facial expression, voice, and gestures, then determine the target's emotion and emit a corresponding cry. Additionally, the interior of its body is equipped with a touch panel display and all sorts of input-output capabilities, allowing it to function as a high-level mobile PC that is also capable of accepting voice commands. Its power source is an experimental liquid solar battery, allowing it to withstand extended periods of outdoor use. I feel like something like that could legitimately do some good. Alexander Graham Bell, we know that. Slutty Alexander Graham Bell. A scholar and inventor born in Scotland, he lived from late 1847 to 1922. He's the inventor who applied for a patent on the telephone in February 1976. Obtained experimental success the next March. That said, Bell was merely the first to apply for a patent on the telephone, beginning with American inventor Elisha Gray, whose patent application was turned in only slightly later. Several people had invented telephones or similar devices before Bell did. Italian inventor Antonio Meucci completed a telephone prototype in 1854, though he lacked the capital to apply for a patent. Germany, Johann Philipp Reis was said to have completed a telephone prototype in 1860. Alas, being America, the guy who gets the patent is the one we remember as the inventor, unfortunately. Brain physiology. French physician Jean Fernel introduced the term physiology as a field of biology focusing on the function of life processes. Brain physiology is a further specialization of that field focusing on the brain. You hit your head, why do you see sparks fly? When you hear the word zebra, why do you know it refers to a black animal with white stripes? Perhaps a white animal with black stripes. How could a drawing seem to simultaneously depict a vase, but also two faces looking at each other? He said that the researching the brain's mechanisms, times like those, can help with the improved diagnosis and treatment of brain diseases. Antoine Courbet, the scientist who proposed the ESP synchronization hypothesis, which related the discovery of BC, was also a brain physiologist. ESP, I suppose, deals with the possibility of the brain directly communicating with other people's brains. Fedor Ivanovich Shaliapin. But that's entirely wrong accent. That's Russian. Popular Russian opera singer early in the early 20th century. His deep, powerful voice and extraordinary talent gained him praise and renown as the most well-known opera singer of the 20th century. Though he was born in a poor family, he taught himself music until he was good enough to earn roles in an opera company. He said that his first genuine voice lesson was not until he was the age of 19. Afterwards, he performed at the Bolshoi Theater in Moscow, the Teatro alla Scala in Milan, Metropolitan Opera House in New York, and other venues. His fame slowly grew and eventually became a huge sensation. 1936, 2 years before his death, he came to Japan for a performance during his stay at the Imperial Hotel. He suffered a toothache and requested a tender steak be prepared. Agreeing to the request, head chef at the time, Fukuo Tsutsui, prepared a tender steak by marinating a well-pounded cut of beef in finely chopped onion. Chaplin is said to have enjoyed the dish immensely. The hotel named the dish Chaplin steak. It went down in history as a Japanese-specific steak. Derivative items include Chaplin sauce, a steak sauce made with onions and garlic, Chaplin Hamburg steak made with said sauce, and Chaplin pie, made with meat tenderized with onion. That does sound pretty good, not gonna lie. The blind spot, a lacking portion of vision that exists in all vertebrates. Structurally, the optic nerve goes through the layer of photoreceptor cells. Thus, the place of optic nerve attachment impedes sight. It's like the stick of a satellite dish goes out through the curved edge of the dish. Let's just finish reading that first. However, the eye has a filling-in function that completes what's missing. Thus, the existence of blind spots aren't normally perceived unless actually sought. Less strictly speaking, the things you fail to see in daily life are sometimes also said to happen in a sort of blind spot. Even more figuratively speaking, descriptive tricks and twists in novels and other media are said to take advantage of the reader's psychological blind spots. Now, psychological blind spots are a completely different matter, but blind spots? I guess the way they're trying to describe it, it's like your photoreceptive cells are at the back of a satellite dish, and the optic nerve runs out of that dish and sticks out a bit, so there are no photoreceptors at the back of the optic nerve, so functionally there's a slight blind spot that you can't pick up on. So the brain evolved to fill in that gap. Alright. Ironically, we're saving over clear and present danger with no danger. There has been no danger so far. And it's been kind of nice to see things with Salyu warm up a little bit. And hopefully going forward we'll start to get into the mystery. So we're almost at the end of the third day, which means it's probably time for another creepy Yuri conversation, and another trip to Labo. We'll see what else builds before then. Until next time, until then.